the pure heart, the happiness will shine. There is no doubt when we put our feet on the ground. In the pure heart, the happiness will shine. There is no doubt when we look up beyond the sky. Om Namah Shivaya, 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 Om Namah Shivaya. In the pure heart, the happiness will shine. There is no doubt when we put our feet on the ground. In the pure heart, the happiness will shine. There is no doubt when we look up beyond the sky. Om Namah Shivaya, 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 Om Namah Shivaya. Following the vision quest that we embarked on, we're now about 3 weeks out from that experience, and just want to know what's alive for you as you reflect on how your integration has gone so far.
Thank you for that question, love.
Mm.
Yeah, I feel grateful. I feel very centered and grounded at the moment. I think a little earlier I was getting some emotional waves, given that it's my luteal phase, and I was starting to feel some hormonal shifts in my body. But now after that breath, after singing together, I feel much more centered again. And yeah, the integration from this vision quest compared to last year's vision quest, so much more smooth is how I would describe it. Like the fact that we were so intentional about choosing to go to Pavones, a really cute little surf town in the southern Pacific coast of Costa Rica, and really spend time in the ocean with the ocean medicine and not be engaged with too much work like we had. You good, baby?
Yeah.
We, got to really just be with ourselves and be with each other and not have to hop into connection with the outer world as quickly as we did last year, where it was like right after Vision Quest, it was like right back into work and back into a more like fast-paced flow compared to like this year. It was like, oh, let's be gentle, let's be patient with ourselves, and how can we do that? And I think that Pavones and getting to really just be a lot, like we were just on the beach, singing medicine songs. We were out surfing on the waves for several hours, just moving with the swell, with the current, and then getting to enjoy some nourishing, delicious food together. It was very slow. And I think that was exactly what my nervous system needed after such a profound experience and so many explorations of self during the Vision Quest, then to like ease back into life and connection with that 2-week period in Pavones. And then we got to go to Envision Festival, which is like a 180 flip of our Pavones experience. But I think that slowness and that spaciousness to just be with ourselves was exactly what we needed to then be able to be social, be surrounded by, friends from Asheville, friends from around the globe that were all there at Envision Fest. And it was so beautiful to like connect with everybody, to see everyone's like smiling, beautiful faces, feel their energy, connect with new, incredible friends. And that was definitely a huge shift in terms of integration experience. But I thoroughly enjoyed every single moment of Envision. I had so much fun playing with friends, with you. There was a lot of dancing, hours and hours, endless hours of movement, and got to really enjoy it all. And so grateful for my body that I was able to actually continue to have energy throughout. It was, very, very beautiful to have so much space and music to play. And it was like, curated in a really thoughtful way. Feeling really grateful for the integration period that we've had, and the way that I've shown up in that period. Yeah. How about you, love?
So I was gonna ask a
Yeah.
follow-up, but I'm happy to answer first, or you can
Up to you.
speak to the follow-up. So the follow-up I was gonna ask was whether there have been any specific practices or tools that have been helpful during the integration, like what that's looked like for you. So the first question was more about how it's been going, but this one's more about like what does that really look like for you in your life?
I think for me, like the biggest tool or way of being is just patience and not having this mentality of like, oh, rush, like let's rush into things. Let's like rush back into the way of being before Vision Quest. So I think like a big piece of my integration has been around patience and like just gentle care that this is all unfolding in divine timing and trusting that process of unfolding. And in terms of other tools that have been really fun, it's just like allowing the simple moments to be like really enjoyed. Not just like bypassing it or taking it for granted, but like all the simple moments of like this life, like really soaking it up. Like that has been so nourishing for my soul. And then I think another beautiful piece of my integration process has been around like mindful mornings. You know, like I think I'm inspired by your disciplined, dedicated practice, and it's felt really good to also join you when you're out stretching in the mornings and just tuning in, meditating. I've been tapping a lot more, which has been fun. That's like a practice that my mom shared with me when I was a kid. And I've been just like listening to the Om Mani Padme Om mantra and just tapping fully along all these meridian points. And that's been like a good centering way for me to like then go into a meditative practice. Been doing some breath of fire as well, not so much now in my luteal phase, but was doing some breath of fire, different like alternative nostril breathing techniques as well as a way to like drop in. And then like recently, a few days ago, I decided to do my morning routine with headphones on and like drop in with music. And that was wildly fun because I feel like I can get quite distracted sometimes with different noises, different movements, and being like plugged into a soundscape that I've chosen for that morning has been so, like, it's allowed me to really focus my attention in ways that's a lot harder if I'm taking in all the surrounding sounds and noises. So yeah, that was really fun. And I guess the context is that like the last few days we've been staying with friends. And so there's just been more beings around. Like we're not just like on our land, just us, where we can just like take in the natural sounds of the forest. But yeah, being around friends is such a blessing, but also like during the mornings can be a little distracting here and there. And so it was nice to like, oh, let me like just go into silent mode and play music and allow the music to guide my flow. And it really does. Like I get so much more playful within my movements, my stretches, my meditations. Like it just goes so much deeper when I have my headphones in. So that's been a beautiful like add-on to my morning flow, which I've really enjoyed. Yeah.
Lovely. Thank you for sharing, Bella.
Yeah, babe. And I would love to, I guess, reflect those questions back to you.
Yeah, my integration has been going well. I would say it's going better than last year's integration just because I've been more present with it and holding the sacredness of integration and the importance of integration very closely. I find that there have been instances where I judge myself for not looking at my journal enough, you know? Just all these brilliant this information that was received. We had the journal to write it down. Find that they're here and there, just like noticing small self-judgments for not picking that book up, quote unquote, enough. But I also understand that that's just self-judgment and is unnecessary and not serving me. But also noticing that as a reminder, you know, to pick that book up and to sit with that. So that's what comes up for me. But overall, it's been going well. I think it's been going well. I'm also realizing that integration isn't really a phase. Like there's no beginning, middle, or end to the integration. There's a way of living that is integration. Because I'm realizing it's not about doing the vision quest and then having this finite phase of integration, but how do we live in an integrated way? Whether we're listening to a podcast or reading a book or having a heart-to-heart connection with someone or really connecting to a song, how do we integrate these codes and these experiences into our lives, and what are our integration practices? So that's alive for me too in this phase, of realizing, oh wow, there's no end to this. There's no beginning, middle, or end. There's a way of of being that is a continual integration practice.
Yeah.
Also notice that during this period, there's a lot, it's been very different being here at Foot Astral, being in this frequency that is pretty pervasive, just in the land and Aina and this on this earth, just in this forest. There is a particular frequency that is held here. And even leaving that and going to Pavones, it was just really us and not many other social interactions, you know, here and there, service interactions, etc. But then integrating with friends and being at a big 10,000 person festival, that was like a way different experience for me. And I noticed that I was getting triggered in certain ways that didn't happen before this experience, before the Vision Quest. And I was sharing with you before, like the primary thing that I have found to be triggering is also something that for me is a growth edge. And there's a growth edge around directedness and directiveness and being direct. And being direct could be direct in my expression. Being direct can be direct in my actions. And I find that I have been triggered in instances where, you know, I think it's really just like I've been feeling a lot clearer in where I'm at, and just taking initiative with that, with where I'm at, and being very clear with that. And these triggers are opportunities to understand where I'm at, to understand what vantage point and what perspective I'm looking at these things from. They're reminders, they're nudges, they're notifications. You know, like they're notifications in my operating system. And what are they notifying me of? And so I'm just receiving the wisdom found in these notifications and these triggers. And I'm realizing that, wow, I'm integrating these learnings, these things that I'm aiming to let go of, you know, these things that I'm aiming to cultivate in my life. And that feels really good, you know, speaking my truth a lot more, feeling very clear in where I'm at and where I want to go and how I'm going to get there. And feeling like I'm finding a really nice harmony between these yin and yang energies, between these masculine and feminine energies. And a big part of my integration has been with music. You know, and with actually, as we were going through this experience, I was writing down song numbers from the songbook that we were singing from. And a big part of my integration has been just a deep musical practice and like playing those songs and reciting and receiving and encoding those prayers and sending those out through music. And so there's this music and this flow aspect and this opening up of emotion aspect. And then there's this other aspect that's like directive and clear and just like initiative taking. And so that's been a really nice thing to feel and hold both of those simultaneously. So yeah, that's kind of what comes up when I think of how the integration period has been going, and also realizing it's not a period as much as it is a way of being.
Yes, I fully agree with that. Definitely a way of being. I think this has been a intentional integration period. But the integration continues and is like continue to unfold, to shift, to show, to awaken, all these different pieces within our own vessels, our own beings, our own souls. And yeah, it's been beautiful to witness your integration and like the way that you are standing in integrity with honoring your integration and yeah, witnessing the expansion of music in you. Yeah, that's been really fun because we've been singing a lot more together, and it's so wild how quickly you've gotten to a point in your guitar journey where it's just so natural, where you're like, oh, I want to play this song. You like hear a song, and then an hour later, half an hour later, you're playing the song. And it's amazing, babe. It's really inspirational to witness. And
Thanks for that reflection.
of course, baby. I'm also curious, like other tools. So outside of music, have there been other tools that you have felt to be very impactful for your integration journey?
Yeah, for me personally, I can speak to this in like traditional philosophical or spiritual terminology,
Yeah.
or really practical terminology. And I think I'm going to choose the practical terminology. Stretching, utilizing my voice, working with my breath, finding stillness, and cultivating a routine or cultivating practices that incorporate these different things. And that has been a tool to bring me back to the wisdom that I was receiving during Vision Quest, because a big part of what I was receiving was about these ancient technologies like pranayama, like mudras, like tantra, like mantra, like meditation, right? Like tapping.
Yeah.
These are all ancient technologies, right? This is the application of knowledge and wisdom. These are ancient technologies that our ancestors used to attune their divine instrument. And so just those practices have been good tools. A, because they're tuning my instrument, and B, because this came up in my Vision Quest, so it kind of brings me back to what that experience represented for me.
Beautiful.
I'm wondering if there's anything else, just the acknowledging the elements, because a big part of the work that we do with the medicine, a big part of the journey that we embark on and the ascend that we climb is working with the elements, working with the elemental energy of water, air, fire, and earth. And so just having deeper reverence for those has been a tool, I would say. Just noticing them more, admiring them more, having reverence for them more has been something that kind of brings me into that space, and in that space holds what I received from that journey. So it's like a revisiting, a returning back to this Vision Quest space. Conversation as well is a tool. Just talking about different things with people. Dialogue is a great tool. Helps to articulate and formulate some of these things that can sometimes be formless.
Right.
So like having to articulate it and put form to these is a helpful tool. And I'm glad that I took the time to do that.
Yeah.
So I feel like there is a time, I feel like there's a time aspect to when you take formless energy and turn it into information and bring it into information. And sometimes I just like sometimes it's just like sitting with whatever that is.
Right.
It doesn't need a form. I don't need to name it. I don't need to label it. I just want to sit with it and receive it and feel it and be with it.
And you don't want to explain it.
Exactly. Exactly. I do think sharing circles, they have a use case.
Here and there.
Yeah, here and there. I think in the circles we're in, there might be a few too many sharing circles.
Yeah, we have a lot of sharing circles in the community, in our circles.
Yeah. So I think just allowing the time before engaging in dialogue and having to articulate these things has been a helpful tool.
Yeah. And it's been cool to get to share bits and pieces of this experience of all, like the whole journey with, bits and pieces of the whole journey with friends who, were not part of the experience. And so have, unique questions or unique perspectives given their separateness from our journey and our individual journeys. And it's been cool to flow into deep social interaction after a lot of self-introspection.
Yes.
It's I've been enjoying it. I think at first it was a little bit overwhelming, maybe is a good word, or not. It didn't feel overwhelming, but it was just like, whoa, this is different. Like, this is a big change. And I wasn't sure where I really like stood in that change, if that makes sense. Like, I was like, oh, like how am I really feeling in this moment? I think I recall right now, like our first group lunch, and I was quite silent and enjoyed it. I was like, you know what? Yeah, I can be in a social group setting, but I don't need to be outspoken or interacting in ways that might not align with where I'm currently at. And it was like, oh, actually, this is nice. Like, I can just observe and listen. And I like doing those things.
Yeah.
But it was funny just like going from such a like tranquil, like space of just sleepy, small surf town with 5 restaurants, not much to do besides surfing, napping, eating, and then going into a festival, which is a very different energy, very different social interactions, and it was like a funny shift that at the time kind of felt abrupt for a second, and then I was like, oh no, I think this is exactly how it needs to happen. But yeah, how was your Envision Festival experience, babe?
It was the best festival I've ever been to in my entire life. I also resonate with what you're sharing about the feeling of overwhelm or overstimulation. I think that's something I felt as well, as just overstimulated by. And I did not recognize it until I was back in my own space.
Right.
Or back in our own space, in our own container.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, wow, that was a lot of stimulation that I've been so far removed from that. And even if it's not like a super long period of time, I feel like we were in a space where time is kind of irrelevant and just super far removed.
Yeah.
in other ways. And so, yeah, I resonate with the overstimulated. However, it was the best festival experience I've ever had,
Hands down.
Given how we did it. Staying in a beautiful Airbnb on the beach, great people that held a good frequency for our integration. They weren't holding it specifically for our integration, but it felt like a good space to be in with good people for our integration.
Yeah.
And yeah, the music was incredible. It almost felt like a second Vision Quest.
It was.
It felt like
with different medicine.
With different medicine. We're heavily skewing towards the mushroom.
Yeah, the fungi
medicine,
ancestors.
The fungal ancestors, which is a very different medicine, very different teaching and learning experience. And so it kind of felt like an extension of the quest in a way, just with a whole different setting and process and flavor to it that involved a lot more people around and different medicine. Lots of different types of music.
Yeah, I guess like for me, the way I see it is like the Vision Quest, like for my experience, is a lot of a lot of, shedding of the layers, right? Shedding of these ideas of who I am, ideas of who I think I should be, ideas of what I want other people to think I am, or, and so the shedding of layers allows me to connect more with myself as a child, myself who didn't have all of these layers built up yet, right? And so the vision quest, it's like I'm peeling all these layers through like a deep intentional quest and like inner journey, self-exploration. And I'm feeling like my creative artist coming through. And I think, that's me as a kid. I think that's most of us as a kid. We're like creative life force energy, wanting to play, wanting to connect with the earth, wanting to connect with ourselves and each other. And then doing Envision Festival 2 weeks after Vision Quest, I feel like it was a expanded version of like full inner child play. Like so much playful joy throughout that whole experience. So much laughter, so much love, so much care. Beautiful. And I just felt more and more like me before I put all of these protection layers on. Like I was just able to be free, like fully free and express in ways that I, want to express in, but have, chosen to not for a while because of just my own judgments of self, my own like thoughts around protection and safety. And there was a moment at Envision Festival where there was a guy who like was touching me in ways that I didn't appreciate. And it was wild to like experience how my like subconscious programming of like, oh, just be kind, it's okay, like just be nice, and like instead of really tuning in with myself and being like, okay, I need to get away, I was like, I allowed it, like I allowed the touching and like uncomfortable interaction occur. And then I was able to like get away and be like, okay, I'm going to see my friends. And it was interesting how quickly like I felt my body and my being just kind of shut down. And I was like, oh, like I don't feel safe now. And yeah, it was kind of like a sad, like one of the like sad moments in the festival where I was just like, oh, now I remember why I have these layers of like protection, or like why these layers were formed. It's like all these different, interactions that you have growing up as a young girl and becoming a young woman. It's like there's so many interactions that just make you feel like you need to hide yourself to be safe. And it was, yeah, wild to have that experience in this period of my life where I was like really shedding all of these layers and like feeling so free, feeling so comfortable, feeling sexy and alive and beautiful. And then to have an interaction like that made me feel small and uncomfortable and taken advantage of in weird ways, like, and not strong. And I think I'm a very strong woman. And in that moment, I did not feel strong at all. I felt weak and I felt scared. And I'm forever grateful for the way that you showed up in that moment, because I've never been in a relationship where my partner has like, yeah, in the way that you were able to navigate that situation with so much grace, babe, and so much strength and courage and power. Like, you asked like who, made you uncomfortable. And you graciously walked up, got up, went to that guy and had like a conversation with him, very level-headed, very calm. And I felt protected. I felt like, oh, I am safe. Like I have a partner who sees me, who wants me to be my fullest, like most beautiful expression, and can, show up when I couldn't show up for myself in that moment. And so there's a lot of like deep gratitude and love that was felt for me during that experience. So just like witnessing the way that you showed up in that moment for me. So thank you, baby.
I'm always going to show up for you, baby.
Appreciate you, baby.
And we're going to rise together.
Yes, full rising. Oh, look at this bug. Cutie. So that was an interesting reflection that I didn't fully like connect until this moment.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful integration moment.
Right?
Yeah.
And I also like recognize that those behaviors of like playing nice is like, it's also a protection mechanism. It's not like I'm weak. It's that like, oh, this is like an easeful way to get out of an uncomfortable situation instead of like making a scene and maybe like, you know, something that could cause more harm.
Isn't that fawning? Is that fawning? Remember Nayad was telling us about the different trauma responses?
Yeah,
And
I
there's
wasn't
flight,
sure which one was
there's fight, flight, freeze, and fawn. But maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah, maybe it is.
You know, like as a trauma response, kind of like going along with it as a form of wanting to, as a way to find safety, right? Some people flight, some people just freeze, some people fight, and some people fawn, maybe. I think that was fawning. I don't know.
That would make sense. Fawning, especially given
I could be totally
like
off
my
on
awareness of like people-pleasing tendencies.
Yeah.
Like if that's fawning, that makes total sense.
But yeah, sorry, continue. But it is a protection mechanism.
Yeah, and I think that shift of perspective, which I just became aware of yesterday talking to Nabras, I was like, oh, okay. Like, because I was having a little bit of like some shame around like, oh, why didn't I just like stand up for myself and like get out of the situation sooner or faster, or just like express my truth directly. Like, hey, this is uncomfortable. I'm going to leave. Like, why didn't I do that? And, you know, it's like, okay, seeing it as this is a protection method as well, but there's nothing to be like shameful around it, like was quite helpful.
And I think that is a valid question to ask. And I think that it can be asked without judgment and shaming.
Right. And I think I just attach judgment and shame. And so that's just something I'm like attuned to and like aware of. And it is there that, that's a question that I can ask without that.
I personally think it's a question you should ask. I think it's a question anyone should ask in those scenarios where something comes up like that or something arises. I think it's totally healthy to ask that. Why did I respond in that way? And it's just like, it's just inquiring a bit deeper. And even if there's no answer available, I think there's even value in just asking the question. And I think there's a way to ask it without judgment and without shame. You know, I don't think why implies judgment or why implies shame. To me, why implies inquiry.
Yeah, except if it's in your head going, why the fuck did you do that?
Yeah,
you
totally.
know? And like that's how I'm saying it to myself, then the attachment of judgment and shame is just like so like forced.
Easy.
And it's easy, it's powerful. And there's a lot of memories that I have with my sister where there's been like interactions with like men and stuff like that that I think because I was like the older sister and like didn't there's already like judgment and like shame around like thinking about those memories where it's like, wow, what, like I could have done such a better job protecting her and I didn't, you know? And you know, like you know, it's not like there was I don't know. Yeah, there's just been a few instances where, I guess I was scared is the answer to the question. You know, I was like, why did I behave in that way? I was scared and didn't know how else to behave in that moment. Like, I didn't know how else to stand up for myself and for my sister. Yeah. But it's interesting. Like, I don't know. Yeah. Yeah, maybe there's more to it that I'm not seeing at this moment too. Because it's like, is it fear or is it like this like programmed idea of just like having to be nice, like being raised as like a young girl, like in a family where, you know, being kind, being polite, being nice is an important value, you know, and like feeling the need to have to like do that. I don't know. Yeah, I think there's a lot of layers to this that we don't have to go down that path of unfolding all of these different layers and seeing the details of it all. But yeah, that moment at Envision was very special to me.
Thanks for sharing that, Bebe.
Yeah.
And I can even just feel in all those reflections just the growth and the healing and the blossoming and the blooming, even in just those reflections.
Yeah.
You know, and just reassuring you that there's no shame in our past actions.
Yeah.
There's no need to have shame in our past actions. I know that that's way easier said than done, and it's a process. And I think the fact that shame comes up, I think is a good sign.
Why do you say that?
Because for me, at least in my process, like shame is a stop on the way to peace and liberation. Because for me, it's like
That's very interesting.
there's an awareness,
Yeah.
cultivate an awareness of a scenario.
Yeah.
With that awareness, from there, I find that that could lead to shame around it.
Yeah.
And from shame, I found that I can get from shame to peace. And I think the thing that comes up for me, just in that example, maybe because it was the most recent thing I shared, was at dinner about my past relationship.
Right.
You know, and just, and I think that when I was in it, I wasn't aware of my toxic behaviors. You know, I wasn't aware of times when I was manipulative. I wasn't aware. I didn't have the consciousness to see these things, right? I was doing them, I was being them, but I didn't have the consciousness to be fully aware of what this is and where this is coming from and why this is happening. And for me, the journey was cultivating an awareness, right? Of like, I guess for lack of a better term, like waking up, right? Like really waking up and awakening and being like, whoa, oh, and then it's like, oh, fuck, I feel bad. I feel shame. I feel pain. I feel grief. I feel hurt, you know, and realizing that it all comes back around, like understanding how hurt my partner was at the time, that came back like a freight train. Once I cultivated that awareness, I was like, oh, fuck, that hurts. That's painful. And there was a lot of shame and there was a lot of grief. And just from there, I was able to reach a place of peace where I you know, where shame, it's like, yes, from where I'm at now, I have made peace with that past. And
what was the shift?
that peace doesn't justify anything.
Yeah.
You know, and I can look at those experiences and look at those ways of being and learn and integrate without needing to carry the shame and the grief and the pain with me.
Yeah.
And I think it came from, funny enough, I think it just came from processing it through facilitated journeys. Actually, like facilitated breathwork journeys. I've had some powerful facilitated breathwork journeys where that came up. Facilitated medicine journeys, maybe even unfacilitated medicine journeys where that comes up. Meditations where that came up, and conversation with her. Right, like actually like expressing and dialoguing from this aware space and just reconnecting back and like, oh, wow, I didn't even see it at the time, but here I am. And I think all of those things were helpful in that process of getting to making peace with times where I acted in ways that were fully out of alignment with what I know my highest self to be.
Totally.
And to be able to make peace with that.
I feel like I need water.
Yeah.
But it's okay.
No, I could use water too.
Yeah.
Also be nice if we had our benches.
I know.
So we can say, hey, link in the bio.
Wow. Whatever went around, still getting us. But
yeah.
Yeah,
But anyway,
I think those practices definitely help move shame and don't allow it to just stay attached to your being. Because I think it's also very easy for shame to just stay connected.
Totally, and eat.
And eat away.
Shame is hungry.
Yeah. Like I don't think for most people, shame becomes peace. You know what I mean? Mosquito on your eyebrow, by the way.
Feeling all that.
Yeah, I definitely got bit.
Yeah.
Right here. You just let it suck me.
But do you think that shame is is an indicator of process?
Yes, I think feeling emotions fully is 100% like necessary to heal. 100%. Suppressing emotions, which I used to do as a kid, did not lead to healing. It just led to continual cycles of suffering, right? And being able to actually move through. Should I get water for us?
Do you want water?
I do kind of want water, but it's I don't have my water bottle here.
Yeah. So we'd have to get the water bottle, fill it up. Because my water bottle doesn't have water in it either, because Ryan's spot had no water.
All right, maybe we can get through this.
We could also bring it to a close.
Yeah, we could.
And move to the next chapter of our day.
Of the day. Yeah, that sounds lovely.
And maybe just close on this note of feeling emotions fully being an indicator of process.
I love that. Yeah, and we're all on beautiful processes on different timelines with different connections to our essence, our truest selves, different connections to our communities, different connections to spirit, source. And it is beautiful to feel. It is beautiful to feel.
Yeah.
And it's beautiful to witness the sacredness of your emotional body.
Now, just one last thing, time. You know, I'm like, yeah, these facilitated journeys, meditation, but also time. I think time, you can rush your healing. Yeah, I think that's so true. You know, it's like time just plays such a role.
Yeah, it does.
Allows things to settle. You know, Just allows things to drop, and when these things drop, you can see them and feel them and understand them from a different vantage point, from a different perspective.
Beautiful. Yeah, time is powerful. Especially when you are moving through time with openness to change.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the key.
That is the key.
Beautiful. Should we
Beautiful.
leave it here?
Yeah, let's leave it here.
Awesome.
All right. Love you, baby.
Love you too, bye-bye.
In a pure heart, the happiness will shine.